Well, hi, welcome to the Copycat Stitch podcast. I'm back with a regular episode today, and it's pretty close to a regular episode. I don't have any finished objects because my castonitis has pursued, but I do have some new projects, some fun stuff to show you, and I actually had acquisitions today because I went to the local yarn store yesterday and splurged on a bunch of stuff. So I don't feel bad about it, and I'll explain why when I get to acquisitions. But for now, let's jump in and discuss some of my projects. So before I show you my works in progress, I want to touch on the ones that I've been avoiding finishing. I have several projects. Oh, actually, I do have a finished object. I'm full of it. Oh, I totally do. I forgot. I brought it up here last week when I finished it, and I forgot all about it. So I have one finished object. I lied. But before I jump in and show you that, I want to talk about the stuff that I haven't really worked on because I've been struggling to focus on any one project. I've barely touched my Fossil Frenzy tee. I had such a good run last time of having done a bunch of rows or a bunch of rounds. And this time I think I've done like 2 or 3 rounds in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I really haven't touched it. I've just struggled to work on it again. And I don't think it's going to get done this summer. It's just one of those projects that is, I desperately want to finish, but it's also just too difficult to work on and I struggle with. So I think in the long run, Annie's here, but she opened the door. Let me close the door. So I think in the long run, I'll finish it. I'll be happy with it. But for right now, I'm not going to beat myself up about not finishing it this year or this season or whatever. It's not bringing me joy and I'm not going to push it. So there's that. I have my Corin cardigan, which I think I'll like, but I discussed in depth last time how I think I didn't pay enough attention to my gauge and it seems really small, and maybe it'll grow in blocking and maybe it'll all work out. But right now it's really small, and first of all, the sleeves are so tedious in that stitch pattern. The sleeves are awful to work on, and that's really what's slowing me down because the entire body I did so quickly, and it's taken me 5 times longer to work on the sleeves than it did to work on the body. I mean, I've finished a full sleeve and a half. I think I'm probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the way done on the second sleeve. I really don't have much left, but it does quite hurt my hands to work on. That stitch pattern on a small circumference is not enjoyable to me at all, and I really want it done. That being said, I've considered casting on another one, which sounds awful, but the pattern does have instructions for a short sleeve version, which I think looks really cute in the photos. And part of me is like, that would be a really great stash buster because it's such an open, lacy pattern. It doesn't use that much yarn. And I could stash bust a quantity that I have by making a short sleeve version of that. And then I wouldn't have to deal with what's been the most difficult part for me, which is the sleeves, because they're like little teeny tiny short sleeves as opposed to the full length sleeves that I'm struggling with right now. So I didn't even bring that up to show you because it barely looks different, except one sleeve is slightly longer and I haven't done anything more on it. And the other one, I cast off my I Found Him cardigan, which I've talked about so many times. I'm not going to get into too much detail with this one either, but I cast that off and seamed it all together and did all of the ends and everything like months ago, and I still haven't sewn the buttons on or blocked it. And I don't know what's stopping me. I mean, I guess I could get really introspective and dig deep on it, but it's just not calling to me right now. So I haven't done that one either. I have done some other things, and that's what we are going to talk about. Now, this first one, I was kind of in the same boat. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I wanted it to be done, and I kind of forced myself to work through this one. Ironically, this one sat with the body finished with the sleeve stitches on hold for like weeks and weeks. And then when I decided to finish it, it took me maybe an hour and a half to do both sleeves because I didn't realize exactly how short the sleeves are. This is my Stripey V Tee, I believe is what it's called. So it's okay. We're going to talk about some of my fit issues. I think it's cute. I love the drape. This True Boo has really, really hefty quality to it. It's very slinky and heavy at the same time, so it does drape really well. Discussed with this project and with several others that it is truly a pain to work with. It's done. I forced myself to finish it. If you can see here, it's truly like 2 or 3 rounds after you come back to do the sleeves before you just do the I-cord bind off. So the I-cords themselves were most of the time spent on these sleeves. But at that point I had already done the rest. I had done the I-cord around the V-neck. I had already done the entire body in the I-cord bind off here. So it's kind of funny to me how long I put off doing this teeny little bit of work. I haven't worn it and I'm disinclined to wear it because the fit is really weird. And there were instructions in the pattern for how to do the math to make your V-neck more or less deep. I thought it was going to be standard depth, and I guess it is. But the issue that I'm struggling with is it's a really cropped top already. And with stripy things in particular, how do I show this? It's kind of doing it on my arm right now. Do you see how it's like kind of chevroning up? These are supposed to be horizontal stripes, but the way it sits on the body, this point kind of sits in the center of the bust, like, and gets pulled up like this, and it makes this chevron shape, which really kind of bugs me. I don't like when it does that. It kind of, I don't know, it makes weird lines on the body. It kind of like draws your eye to literally the center of my bust in a weird way. And it's really easy for me with this fabric. Like I said, it's quite heavy. It'll stay where I put it for the most part to pull it forward and kind of sit it on my body in a way that the stripes lay mostly flat, more or less flat, except in that case, the V is like down past my bra. It's so low. So I kind of just don't like the fit. It's either the V is so deep that I have to have a top underneath it, which I guess I could do. But if it's hot enough to wear a slinky cropped t-shirt like this, isn't it kind of too hot to be wearing 2 tops? And the alternative is to have it do this weird chevron bow thing in the front where it looks like it doesn't fit me. I don't know. I'm discouraged by this one. It was nice to have on the needles as a mindless project for a while. It was nice to stash bust through this True Boo. And then at the end of it, I'm like, did I even want this? Or did I just do it for stash busting? I'm not sure. Maybe I'll find a way to wear it. Maybe if you have any ideas. I know a lot of people wear tops like over dresses. This is not one that I think I would wear over a dress. I don't know. I guess I could try. It just seems like a very casual style top to wear over a dress. I guess I could wear it with one of my like athleisure bra tops. I don't know. I'm on the fence about that one. I don't know if I love it. No, I know I don't love it. I don't know if I like it. But it's done. It's a finished object. Check that box, I guess. Yeah. You win some, you lose some, right? Now let's talk about the projects that I already had going. Wait, sorry. I have to interrupt because it is several hours later and I realized after I finished filming this whole episode that I kind of left out a super important project that I really wanted to tell you about and that I've been thinking and working on a lot. So let me pause, hence the change in lighting and circumstances, but I wanted to tell you about my Hygge burst blanket because I said last time, you know, I've made 7 squares. I'm just using up all these acrylic scraps. I'm going to work on this as and when I feel like it. It's a long-term project, which turned out to be wrong. I have been working on it a lot, and frankly, a lot more than I realized. I've kind of just been making a bunch of squares. I haven't really been thinking about it. I am enjoying mixing and matching the colors. It's very potato chippy in that way. Every square is the same. There's not different types of crochet patterns or crochet granny squares. It's all the same 4 rounds repeated. All 4 rounds are different from one another, but every square is the same. And then I have this palette of, I think it was originally 11 or 12 colors. Now I've used up a bunch of them and I'm down to like 8 or 9 colors. But I'm really enjoying mixing and matching. And every time I finish one, I just kind of want to start the next one. I just immediately, my brain starts turning and I want to pick the next 4 colors. So I start by making the, you know, the ring for the first round, and then all of a sudden I've made another square, but now I want to pick out the colors for the next one. So it's just super potato chippy in that way. I do want to mention that I'm not a huge granny square person in general. And this project isn't one that I would have expected to enjoy so much because of all the color changes and the ends that you would weave in with that. However, this particular granny square motif is super, super conducive to crocheting over your ends as you go, which I know a lot of people do, and I've done it on some projects in the past. I do find that some crochet stitches, it doesn't work as well, either the yarn or the stitch or the combination of both. Sometimes it's kind of visible. The tail, I mean, is kind of visible between your stitches. Sometimes it's not grippy enough and the tail kind of works itself loose and it's not that secure of a method of going over ends. In this case, these stitches hide it quite well, and the acrylic yarns I'm using are very much grippy enough that every single round I'm crocheting over the ends and I'm not having any issues so far. I mean, obviously I haven't used it as a blanket yet, but so far I haven't seen any issues with the ends kind of poking out. I have been going over all of the ends as I go. So every single square, even though in theory it has 8 ends because it's 4 different colors of yarn, there's only actually 1 end left at the end because I'm going over the first 7 as I'm going around the granny square. So I think that definitely helps make it a lot more palatable to me, because I would not be inclined to make such a large blanket. This blanket requires 80 squares if I couldn't go over the ends as I go. If I had to weave in like hundreds and hundreds of ends at the end, I don't think it would be worth it. So I really, really love that element of it. So you kind of make these 4 color inner squares, you need 80 of them, and then you attach them all at the end with a crochet as you go method. So the last round around all of them. In the example, and I'm going to copy this, it's like an off-white color. I kind of went back and forth on what yarn I wanted to use for that because I don't actually have any worsted weight off-white, but I realized I do have a lot. I have like 5.5 skeins of a sport weight Mary Maxim acrylic off-white that I've had in stash for a long time, and I'm going to hold that double because I think that's plenty to do this. I want to mention also that I was working on it on Friday and I was doing it like just making so many of them. When I'm choosing my colors, I'm keeping them in stacks based on the outermost color because I think that's the most prominent color visually. And when I'm choosing which colors I'm going to use, I kind of lay out all of the ones I already have from an outside color. So say it's like the pink color, I would put out all the ones that have pink around the outside and kind of look at those and see which ones I've used least frequently. So if I'm looking at all the pink ones and thinking about starting a new square, I would try to figure out which other color I've not used or have used the least for the first round. So maybe I've not used like the second darkest tan color I have. I used 4 shades of tan and a dark brown in these. There's a lot of neutrals in this blanket. So I think like tan number 2, I want to use that. I'll start with that and then I'll look and I'll say, well, for the second round, I've only used the dark green once, but I've used most of the others twice. So I'll use dark green again. And that's kind of how I'm planning them, thinking of them as it's a pink square if the outside round is pink, and trying to vary those. And then at the end, I'll mix them all up in a way that I think looks the nicest. But as far as keeping track of which ones I have as I'm doing it, that makes the most sense to me. So I've got all these stacks on my dining table of all the different squares based on what their outside color is. And I'm kind of working through that. I'm trying to aim to do a couple more of each color. And at a point I decided to stop. I was like halfway through a square. I don't know why this is the point I decided to stop and count. But on Friday, as I'm working through them, I decided I'm going to see how many I have and see how many more I have to make. And at that point, I had 83.5 squares. So I had already made more than I need for the blanket as written, which I thought was really funny because I'm just having so much fun that I made too many. But before then, I had already considered making my blanket bigger, so that was the moment I decided to, because I'm still having fun. I'm not burnt out on making the squares, and I still have a bunch of, I think, like I said, 8 or 9 colors left. And I can actually use up a few of them if I push through and make more squares. So instead of my blanket being 8 squares by 10 squares, I'm gonna make it 9 squares by 11 squares. So that's my plan. Right now I kept going that day. I have somewhere over 90. I'm aiming for my 99 squares instead. I think I have enough of that Mary Maxim Sport to hold double to do the crochet as you go join for all 99 squares. If I run out before I do the border, I'll do the border in a different color. I don't know. This is a stash busting project, and in the spirit of stash busting, I'm going with the flow. Anyway, this is a super important project that I've spent a ton of the last couple of weeks working on, and I completely forgot to talk about it in the rest of the podcast. So I had to stop myself and tell you all about that, but I'll let you go back to where you were. Sorry. Last time we spoke. So one of them is this top by Poison Girls, which is called I don't remember. Why does this always happen to me? I do not remember what this is called. I'm making this with the Mezzo Makes vintage Taco Bell inspired yarn called Having a Blast, which is inspired by, of course, Baja Blast Mountain Dew. It's very difficult to see because it's in so many pieces, but I have, of course, split for the armholes. There we go. Now I think you can kind of see it better, right? Split for the armholes. You're looking at the back. The front is already finished. Let me see if I can spin it around. The front has the bust darts in it, which I talked about in a previous episode. Look how much longer the front is than the back. And I mean, also the back isn't done. I'm holding them at the same height at the shoulder, but the back isn't done. So it's probably more like this. But a detail about this that I do quite love is that you work the front and the back. Nope, not what I meant to say. You work the left and the right at the same time. They're both on the needles. They're just joined 2 separate balls of yarn. I was a little nervous about this at first, insofar as color pooling, because this is a hand-dyed yarn and I have alternated for the entire body otherwise, hence why there's so many ends dangling off this thing. It's also a quite intricate pattern that has a lot of shaping and a lot of thoughtful detail included. So there's ends for that reason too, because you disconnect and reconnect. And I do like Poison Girls patterns for that. They are not mindless, but they are well designed in my opinion, and they're very attentive to shaping and customizability. So as you can see, if I hold it this way, I've got a couple more inches to do roughly on these sides of the neck on the back, and the front and back are identical, I think. I mean, except for the dust bars, the bust darts that we already discussed. As far as once you get past that shaping, the front and the back are identical for the neck. So there won't be that much to do after I get up to the top. Of course, there's neck finishing, and then I'm electing to do the cap sleeve option. This pattern has puff sleeves, flutter sleeves, and cap sleeves, and I'm doing the cap sleeves. So I guess there is some color pooling. You can kind of see it, how it's a lot more micro stripy through the body and then gets a little more solid towards the top. But there are portions on the body on the front where it's quite solid, where there'll be like a patch where there's not really many stripes. I don't think it's super noticeable. I think it's fine. I'm kind of enjoying this one. For a long time, this one was my mindless, like the one I keep under my desk at work for when I have downtime or meetings or whatever. Obviously we're past that now that we're into neck shaping and binding off and decreases and stuff. I am not using it for that purpose. So I did cast on another one to fulfill that purpose, but I won't show you that just yet. But yeah, this one now is more of an active at home whip when I feel like it, which hasn't been that often because, as I mentioned, I want to cast everything on, and after going to the yarn store yesterday, I want to cast on so many more things. It's going to be a struggle to push myself through all the things I've already started because I have some really fun new yarns that I'm excited to use, but they're also kind of seasonally inappropriate. Well, one of them is. Okay, I'm getting ahead. I'm getting ahead. Let's talk about my pressed flowers pullover. We've talked about this a couple times. This one is coming out so well. It's kind of getting to the point where it's starting to feel tedious, which is kind of impressive considering how far I am in the project. However, it is a yarn management challenge. Let's recap. My main color for this pullover is this comfy cotton blend in the colorway Silver Lining. It's a gray acrylic cotton blend. And incidentally, in my stash, I also had 2 skeins that I had thrifted of this Sheepious Whirl, which they don't even have any blue in the middle for the most part now because I've used up so much of them. How fun is that? But I have, those are fingering weight. So I'm holding the Sheepious double to match the approximate gauge of the comfy cotton blend, which is working well enough. And it is a mosaic style color work anyway, so it all blends together really very well. So because I have just the 2 skeins of the Sheepious Whirl, and that is a slow color changing yarn, it's so pretty. The barber pulling is very extended. I really love it. Because of the style of this raglan top down sweater, I had to think carefully about how to use the color changing yarn as the contrast color when it comes to splitting for sleeves. I think it's coming along really very well. So you can see I have split for sleeves and I have done 4+ repeats since then. So my decision, and I think it was the right one, I have to say, every pattern repeat, which I think is about 16 rows, but because it's mosaic knitting, 8 of those rows are main color, 8 of those rows are contrast color. Rounds, this is in the round. So 8 rounds are contrast color. I do 1 repeat, which is the 16 rounds on the body, and then I break the contrast color and I do a repeat on the sleeve, and then I break the contrast color and I do a repeat on the other sleeve. So right now the body has 4 repeats. Each repeat is a full flower row since the break for sleeves. This side is on its 4th, and this is where I have the contrast color attached right now because that's the one I'm actively working on. And this side only has 3 because I have to do the sleeve next. So far, fingers crossed, the rate that the colors are changing at actually works out really well for this. The color change is so slow and it's very gradual, like I mentioned, such that it still fades well enough on each of them that you're kind of not missing it, and it's fading at roughly the same rate on all of them. So I don't think it's noticeable that one sleeve or the body are missing a section or ahead or behind of one another because it is so slow. So no, I did realize since last time, I think you can see at the top of the sweater here, I did a full like 2.5 flowers in this mint color that was just solid mint. And then it started slowly turning teal, and then that's when the barber pulling starts. And it goes from mostly mint, barely teal to mostly teal, barely mint. And then I didn't realize yet, as of last time, that it actually is never solid teal. That one tiny thread, that one ply that is the contrast color changes to the next contrast color. So it goes directly from having the tiny thread of the mint contrast to a tiny thread of the navy. And then even when it looks mostly teal, it's starting to marl in the navy color, and then it's greater and greater navy until navy is the primary and the teal is the secondary color, and then it switches to the green. So it's this sort of foresty green here, and you can see I'm already at the midpoint between the navy and the green, so they're sort of equal parts now, and then it will be mostly green, and then it will move into this sort of tan color, and then on the outside it does look like this brown color does go solid for a while. I think I'm gonna have plenty of the sheepiest to do this because I'm only halfway through those cakes, and I believe I'm more than halfway through the body of this and the sleeves. That is a nice silver lining, so to speak, regardless of the colorway, because I don't have to go back and do the sleeves. I'm doing it all at once, even though it's tedious. And that's why I said it's surprising that it took so long to be tedious, because truly, like, being this far on the body and the sleeves, it should have been tedious before now. But it's still enjoyable. I still like it. It's a very easily memorizable pattern. For the body. For the sleeves, because they have decreases, I find I am checking the charts a lot to make sure I'm doing the decreases at the right time, and also to avoid getting confused because I'm doing 2 sleeves at the same time. And the chart is 3 pattern repeats. So because I'm breaking the yarn twice in the middle of the chart, I am wary of getting confused and doing the wrong section of the chart on the wrong sleeve, you know, because I'm doing 2 sleeves at the same time. And I might be at a different point in the chart, and also I want to do the decreases at the right point and not do the color changes at the wrong point. And it sounds like a lot. It's not as bad as it is. Truly the hardest part about it is I have 3 balls of the main color, and they're all 3 staying joined to the 3 sets of needles, and I'm only moving the contrast color around, and those get tangled quite a bit. Not a huge issue. I just do have to stop and take time in between every repeat when I'm changing where I'm putting the contrast color to make sure the other 2 aren't tangled together, because they do tend to get, when I'm turning my knitting back and forth, knitting in the round. So that was a whole lot of words about this. But I am enjoying this. I think it's coming out really well. I think it's visually really quite striking, and I'm really, really proud to have made this, not only out of stash yarns, but out of what were really very cheap stash yarns. I think when this is done, it's going to be such a pretty sweater, and like nobody's going to be like, oh, that sweater is half acrylic and you only paid $8 for it. Like, you wouldn't guess. I'm very pleased with how thrifty and I don't know, just stash busty, and yeah, I'm proud of this, and I feel that this sweater is just a great example of my kind of recent philosophy with thrifting my knitting supplies and being conscious of my consumption in my craft. I think it's a great result, and I'm pleased with it. My next project is a new cast on. I had mentioned my intention to cast on this one before when I bought this yarn a few months ago. And this is a pattern I've made before, the Top Sole by Mochi Knits. I made this as a gift knit for my sister in April out of some stash yarn I had, and it came out really cute. And around that time, I went to local yarn store day and I bought some yarn to make one for myself because I really liked it, and I just hadn't gotten around to casting it on yet. So I did that because I got past the sort of mindless section on my other top, the Poison Girls top, and I just thought I need to have something mindless. This was a week ago, so I was, you know, on the weekend thinking about going back into the work week. I was like, I'm not going to have a mindless knit that I can bring with me to work because I don't have anything portable and lightweight enough that is just simple stockinette. So I cast it on. So I have 2 skeins of this Barocco Remix Light. The light is the DK weight. They make this in DK, worsted, and bulky. It is an extremely soft yarn, and I'm impressed when I look at the fiber composition. It's interesting, and I really like this yarn. I considered buying more yesterday when I was at the store, and I ended up not, but I'll show you why. Anyway, the fiber content for this is 30% nylon, 27% cotton, 24% acrylic, 10% silk, and 9% linen. So it's a whole melting pot of summer and synthetic fibers, but it's super, super soft. They're all very tweedy because they're recycled, and they've got all of those different bits in them. I don't know which part is, I would think the nylon maybe is the new and the rest figures into it. I don't know how they produce it. I'm sure one of them is the more base fiber for the spin of it, and everything else is recycled fibers that are kind of just added in, which is how they're all so tweedy. They have a lot of really nice colors. It's a really pretty yarn. It's really lovely to work with. I'm very much enjoying the tactile sensations of working with this one. Everything is working out. And even though to me it looks really thin, it is working up at the gauge, the DK gauge of the top sole pattern. So that's great. These are kind of expensive in my opinion for recycled yarns. I guess maybe it's a, you know, one of those like greenwashing markup kind of things, but these are $16.50 a skein, and it's just a standard 100-gram skein. Yeah, see, it says 432 yards, but it's a DK. Like, to me, that's a fingering weight, but it is working up well at the DK gauge, so I guess it's just fluffy enough. But here's what I have so far. And I have these needles that I don't normally use. These are a fixed set of wooden needles, and I think they're the only one I have, fixed wooden ones. I can't have very many, and I'm pretty sure I got them either when I bought like a curated box at some point, or my local yarn store does like little events, and I don't know if it was their like bingo event or like a holiday prize or something, or sometimes when they do those curated boxes, which they call nitty fixes, they have like everybody gets a randomized envelope with a secret prize inside kind of thing. I don't know. They do a lot of fun promotions like that. And in one of those fun promotions, I do remember like winning a coupon to pick out any set of knitting needles. And I think that might be where these came from. They're US 4 3.5 millimeter. I think they're Luca. That would make sense if I bought those because I don't otherwise have any Luca needles and I would want to try them. I love them. They're really nice, but I also already have a full set of wooden interchangeables. So that's that. But yeah, you can kind of see it so far. It is really lightweight, but it's very soft. I mean, it's soft like a t-shirt that you've washed 100 times and broken in already. It's soft in a really good way. And I just love the feel of this fabric. So this top is a vest top that has ties in the front. The armhole finishing is done as you go. I'm sure it's really hard to see in this texture of yarn, but there is this garter stitch border around the edge that you work as you go so that you don't have to go back and do any finishing except for, I think, the neckline. I kind of can't even remember. Like I said, I just made one in April, but I found it to be a really quick knit and my sister quite liked it. So I'm making one for myself. Obviously, I'm not very far in it. I haven't been letting myself work on it when I'm at home. I've only been working on it at work or, you know, as my on-the-go knitting because I don't want to burn through my on-the-go project too quickly. That said, I'm now into August and I probably shouldn't like hold out too long on finishing up this vest top because I'm really not going to have much of an opportunity to wear it much longer. Fingers crossed, right? We want fall to come in a timely manner. I don't need summer to continue well into October again. But yeah, that's where I'm at with that one. And I honestly, that's a week's work on it. I cast it on, I think Sunday or Monday last week, and just enough to get past the sort of short row shoulder shaping that you do to get to the work even section so that I would have something nice and simple to do at work, and the rest I've been doing at work. So I do have another one now that might have been a good mindless project, but I plan on doing both eventually anyway. So let's talk about my little trip to the yarn store, and then I'll tell you about my last cast on, because one of the things I cast on was actually using the yarn I bought yesterday, and I wasn't sure I was going to cast it on, and I only did last night. But I have 4 garment quantities, or I guess 4 project quantities that I bought at the yarn store yesterday, and I didn't intend to. So I went there thinking there are 2 things in particular that I wanted to make that I've kind of been combing my stash and looking at my Ravelry and spending all of this time studying what I could possibly use for it, and not finding that I had any suitable yarn in a colorway I liked, in a fiber that makes sense to make these 2 projects. So one of them is the Everyday Bag by Suzanne Mueller. I really want a new bag to carry my stuff to and from work with. Right now, I end up carrying literally 3 bags home. Like I have like a shoulder or a crossbody bag and then 2 tote bags on my shoulder to get home. And I walk most of the way home, and that's a huge pain. But every time I look at the thrift store, I'm not finding a bag suitable enough, that's like in decent enough condition that I could use, that is also large enough to carry my work laptop, which is really the main concern, is that I have to bring my laptop to and from work with me. And that takes up a lot of space, and I want to put it in a bag where it's protected and not just kind of floating around loose. And I haven't been able to find something perfect. And I had seen the everyday bag, and I think it's a really classy pattern and it looks really pretty. And I thought, if I knit that, I could absolutely sew a lining that includes a special pocket for that laptop, and then I could carry 1 bag to and from work with me, and that would be ideal. So I wanted to make that pattern. Didn't have anything perfect in stash. And I also have been thinking a lot. Now I love this sweater pattern. I think it's the Rudolph sweater. I don't actually remember what it's named. This very like lacy open cotton summer sweater has really been speaking to me lately, and I really wanted to cast one on. This is just an example. I'm not like set on this exact pattern, but I really like the fit and the idea of this shape of sweater. And those 2 projects are the ones that I've been trying to find a way to work out of my stash, but I really just don't think I have anything perfect for them. So I kind of wanted to go to the local yarn store anyway. I got the email yesterday morning that their semi-annual clearance sale was just marked down for the last time. They do this every year. They have an initial markdown where everything's 25% off, and then a few weeks later they mark it down to half off, and then a few weeks later whatever's left they mark down to 75% off. I had avoided going for any of the sales. I haven't gone there since I went for the local yarn store day event, which is what, May? So I hadn't seen any of it, and I thought it'd be nice to go have a look. I don't know what they have on clearance. Even if they don't, I can look around for something to use for those 2 projects, because I think I've exhausted my options looking in stash. Of course, I'm still committed to working through my stash. I'm still committed to finding what I can secondhand, but this is a small business. It's not like I'm at a big box store, and I don't do it very often. I don't treat myself to new yarn very much, and I really have done my best to exhaust my options to find something for these 2 projects, and I can't. They're both living in my head rent free. I really want to make them or something like them, and the only way to do that is to buy yarn for it. So Josh wanted to get an oil change in the car yesterday, and I thought, well, there's a Valvoline right next door to the local yarn store, so if you wanted to just go to that one, I could just pop on over and see what they have on clearance. So that's what we did. He was getting the oil changed. It left me with a solid half hour to look through what they had, and I ended up finding a lot more than I expected, which I don't know why. Like, I think I can walk into a yarn store on clearance day and be fine. It ended up being quite fortuitous for me. It was Saturday morning. It was the first day that they had the final markdowns, and it was not picked over. It wasn't busy at all. There was maybe one other customer in there the whole time I was there, and I found a lot of stuff on the clearance tables. So the first thing I found when I walked in and immediately picked up was a sweater quantity of this Blueface Leicester from Juniper Moon. I love Juniper Moon. I've used them a bunch before. I've never used this base, but I've used BFL from other yarn makers before, and it's so squishy. It's so nice and woolly, but not itchy. And I immediately fell in love with this yarn. This was the only colorway they had. I love this color. It's sort of like khaki mustard, like somewhere between a green and a mustard color. I don't know. I think it's really pretty. They had 5 skeins of it. It's a worsted weight. So I got a little over 1,000 yards, and it's 100% Blueface Leicester. Well, it's so nice. I genuinely love it. So thrilled. These were marked down to $5.75 a piece. So again, everything was 75% off, while my 5 skeins, originally at $23 a piece, would have been $115. I have the receipt here. I shouldn't be doing this math in my head. It would have been $116 for this sweater quantity. At full price, I got it for $28.75. I have a feeling this is a color I would have chosen if I had seen the full array of colors, so I feel so lucky that this was the quantity that they had left over. It's so good, right? Anyway, I came home and for all of these yarns that I bought yesterday, immediately started looking through Ravelry to see what I could make with them. I did look through my own library first, and actually the patterns that I've managed to pick out are all the ones that I own already. And I should have gotten the book out because I don't remember what the patterns are called. I remember both patterns are by Copycat, who is Veronica Lindbergh, and I love watching her YouTube videos and her tutorials and stuff. She does a great job. I like her designs. They're all very artistic and unique. I just like the way she comes up with stuff, and I think her aesthetic is so well conceived and everything. I was gifted, personally, my mother bought me as a Christmas gift, I should say, both of her knitting books for Christmas, I think last year or the year before. So I don't know which of those two books the pattern is in, but because both of these patterns I'm going to talk about are in my library, I know they're in those books. So first of all, there's this gorgeous circular yoke colorwork sweater that came up when I searched my library for worsted weight pullovers. And immediately I was like, I want to do that. And I think I have enough to use this as a main color. And then I got to do a little stash diving, and I went through my scraps yesterday to put together my contrast colors. So are you ready? So this is not one, this is one that now I really want to cast on, but I'm going to make myself wait till fall because this one makes way more sense to have as a fall cast on as a worsted weight woolly knit. But in my stash, I found this partial skein. And the other thing I should say is that the contrast colors, one of them you need like closer to half a skein, maybe more than half a skein, but the other two you need really, really small amounts. So it's perfect for scrap busting. I have more than half a skein of this, which is a 50-gram skein. There's probably like 30 grams here of Wool of the Andes worsted. When I went through my stash and looking for scraps, I tried to only find things that were non-superwash wools because I think it'll grip better for color work, it'll match the texture better. And I think this is so good. I don't know if you can see, this is Lava Heather. This is left over from the contrast color from my Cavo jumper that I made last year. So I used really, really very little of it. That jumper is all over cable work. It's so pretty, and it has Latvian braids as details around a couple of the edges, and this is literally only used as a contrast for the Latvian braid sections. So I have most of this skein left. I think it's going to look so good. I'm going to show you them individually and then as a set after. I'm so pleased with this. And then I had a couple other colors of Wool of the Andes that might have worked, but they maybe weren't the best contrast because I didn't buy them to go together. And then I remembered also from Knit Picks, I have a bunch of palette left over because I made that temperature blanket for my sister and my brother-in-law a couple years ago for Christmas. And palette is a fingering weight, but I think I could hold it double or triple if I have to match gauge. And I have enough of these to do that as a contrast color in this sweater. So first of all, this color I think is Oyster. Yeah, Oyster Heather and Autumn Heather. So I'm going to try to get some B-roll to see, so you can hopefully see, but both the Autumn Heather and the Lava Heather have a little bit of this sort of like puce color in them. And I think it just ties in so well together. So imagine, if you will, it's gonna be so good. I am so excited if you can't tell. Yeah. Looking at them in this natural light, I'm so pleased. I think this is going to be incredible. And it's fun to pick out new yarn and to get a great deal on new yarn, and it's like so much more fun to stash bust at the same time. So this is the best of all worlds. 3 more quantities. So this one I'll show you, I picked out because it's just so pretty and it's just such a good opportunity. This is the one quantity I bought yesterday that I actually don't have a pattern picked out for. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, although I'm sure I'll find something. So I bought 3 balls, and they had more than that, but this is enough to make myself a garment. of Noro Akari Solo. So Noro, notoriously luxurious, gorgeous, artful, expensive yarn. I have bought Noro a couple times before. I have only ever bought it when it's on a clearance sale like this. I think I've only actually used it once. I have another quantity in stash that I have earmarked for a pattern in my queue. But this Akari Solo is so pretty. It is a medium weight. This is a 200-gram ball that has 480 meters in it. I bought 3 of them. Ready? Can I do this? And they're in this gorgeous, like green and pale purple and blue colorway that is variegated, but also I think will just make, I plan on making something super simple out of this. Some sort of stockinette pullover, because I think it'll just look so gorgeous. And I want this yarn to shine, right? So, are you ready? This is another one with a doozy of a fiber composition. This is 26% silk, 21% cotton, 15% viscose, 14% mohair, 12% wool, and 12% polyamide. So just wild. This is also super soft, like all Noro that I've ever seen. I don't know if every Noro product fits this, but every Noro that I've ever worked with is a single ply that is a whole blend of different fibers and tends to have these sort of thick and thin sections and like slightly variegated because of the various fibers coming in and out. But again, super artful, super beautiful. I'm so thrilled with this. Just holding this is so inspiring. These are retail price $55 a piece. So for my 3 balls, my sweater quantity, instead of paying $165, I paid $41.25. Not bad for a primarily natural fiber, gorgeous pullover. Another quantity that I spotted almost immediately on the clearance tables and committed to because I love the color. And it's actually another yarn that I've worked before and I'm really familiar with and truly love. And I guess it's a controversial one. I've seen other people review this yarn base and not like it at all, but I've made several things out of it and I think it's delightful. Another Juniper Moon product is Cumulus. It's entirely Mako cotton, I believe. Oh, it doesn't say Mako. Yes, it does. It doesn't on the back, but it does on the front. It does. It's not entirely. It's 94% Mako cotton and 6% nylon for strength. But it's a sort of like chainette, very fuzzy style cotton. I've used it for a couple garments before. I have small quantities of it sitting in stash. I love it. I think it's delightful. It's one of the softest yarns I've ever used. And it's a nice summer fiber and it's super, super, super lightweight. This is 100 grams. It's 251 yards. It calls itself size 4 medium, but I think it can go down a size, which is convenient because I've chosen a DK weight pattern that I want to use it for. The gauge for that pattern said 17 stitches to 4 inches. The suggested gauge on this label is 16 to 20 inches. So it falls right in that. I think it's perfectly fine. I got 5 skeins of this. I guess they're hanks, 5 hanks of this. I think it's lovely. When going through my patterns on Ravelry last night, after coming home with my little haul, I decided I wanted to make this Kukovakika pattern. Now, again, I don't remember the name of it, but I'm sure it's on screen and you can see it. And this is a pattern that I had seen in the books before that I had flagged that I wanted to make. And at first, when I was looking at Ravelry, I didn't think I could because it's actually listed on Ravelry as being a light fingering pattern. But then when I looked at it more closely, it's several strands held together and it's actually a DK pattern. Like I said, the gauge in the pattern is 17 stitches to 4 inches. So this will work just fine. I think it will be lovely. And it's got those nice little lacy details. And I'm deciding to make this instead of the Rudolph pullover. I think because this is super, super lightweight, it maybe won't showcase the Rudolph sweater as well as other yarns could. Other cotton yarns that have a little more heft to them would really, the weight would open up the lace, and the shaping on that sweater, bell shaped on the sleeves and sort of A-line shaped on the body, I think is meant for that weight to open up, and that contributes to the fit. And I don't think this would do that. I think I've made garments out of this before, and they are so lightweight that they don't even weigh themselves down. And I don't think the lace would work as well. But in the Coco Vaquica pattern that I've chosen, I think it's perfect because it's just sort of these little eyelets that are sprinkled throughout the otherwise stockinette garment that make it sort of lacy. But I don't think I don't think those eyelets will be affected by the weight or lack of weight in this yarn, is my point, I guess. And I think this sweater also has really nice details around the ribbing and stuff. It's really pretty, and I hope to cast that on this summer also. These retail full price $25 a piece. So again, instead of paying $125 for this sweater at $6.25 a piece, I paid $33.75. So beautiful. I love it. Okay, I bought one more thing at the yarn store yesterday. And remember, I went there because I wanted to get something to use to make the everyday bag, and I waffled. I went back and forth so much. I had seen one thing on the clearance table that I thought might be suitable, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it in that. And I kept looking at the entire selection they had, and they have fewer cotton yarns now because I think they're kind of gearing up for fall, so they're selling off their summer fibers. And the only one that I really considered was getting more of the Barocco remix, because I do think that would make a lovely bag. The fiber composition is so smooth. Most of the fibers in it are definitely strong enough to put in a bag. It won't pill much, and it would be really lovely. The problem I was having is that, like I said, Barocco remix comes in bulky, worsted, and this like DK, but like the DK is really, really thin. I thought I could either get the worsted one or hold the DK one double to meet the Aran weight gauge of this bag. And I didn't like the colors that they had in the worsted size. Any of the three sizes were $16.50 a piece. I would need to get 3 balls of either the worsted or the DK ones. There was colors I liked in the bulky, but then it bothered me because I would have to buy 4 balls of it. And then now this like bag that I'm making, literally like a tote bag, is gonna end up being, what is that, like almost $70, which was just too much for me. So I'm not gonna use the bulky. I considered getting the light again and holding it double. I considered getting the light and holding it with something I already have in stash. So I was on my phone looking through my Ravelry for something I could hold it with, which might have worked. And I kind of was holding that yarn for a while, but ultimately I was like, this is dumb. I kind of like the one on the clearance table for this. It's a good opportunity. I should just try it. I think it'll work. It's a similar color to the one I was going to buy in the remix, and it's cheaper than the remix, which is crazy because it's Noro again. This Noro base is called Haunui Cotton. It is 60% wool, 40% cotton. So there is some risk of pilling. That was really what was holding me back, is that the fiber composition, while it's almost half cotton and I think it will hold up to being a bag, I'm afraid that it will pill with friction against the side of my body as I'm walking with it. I guess we'll find out. This color is super pretty. All of these mauve and rusty tones, but it's really subtle. And again, like I said, every Noro product that I've ever worked with is this sort of thick and thin single ply made of multiple fibers. I think it's delightful. I think it's really, really pretty. It was $12.50 a piece, and I only needed 2 of them because these are 150 gram balls. So that's what I decided to do, is spend the $25 on 2 balls of this as opposed to the $36 whatever dollars on the remix when I wasn't 100% sold on the color there, and I do love this color. So again, the only thing holding me back was fear that it might not hold up over time, but I'm going to take a gamble and do it. And in fact, I've already cast on because I couldn't help myself. It's so pretty. Look how deflated this one is already. I've gone through maybe 50, 60 grams already. It kind of deflated into a little donut. Look how like sturdy and upright it is. That's kind of funny. Anyhow, here we are so far. This is going to be the Everyday Bag by Suzanne Mueller. So fascinating construction, truly loving it. It is quite ingenious. Now that I've cast on, I don't want to give away the secrets of it because it is a paid pattern, but the shaping is so simple and it works out so well. So you do a Judy's Magic cast on, which I haven't done in a while, and I forgot is truly magic. I forgot that there's actually no seam at all. So you can't see a seam on the bottom because the bottom of the bag is literally just knit fabric using the magic cast on. That you are able to tell where it is because I elected to use, instead of doing it like a long tail cast on and just estimating how much of a tail I would need to do the magic cast on, I tied the two ends together and used both ends and then just snipped the outside of the ball to continue using it as a center pull ball once I'd finished the cast on. So right here, there's a row where it's like white right up against the brown, and that was the cast on row. So that's kind of handy because there's no seam and it is the bottom of the bag, so that stripiness doesn't matter, but I am able to visually see that and measure from that later in the pattern. So that's useful. So I love how seamless it is. I love that the shaping is all included and it's so simple. It's truly just a couple of pearl stitches and slip stitches strategically placed to create these fold lines for a bag that is essentially just a giant rectangle, but will fold in on itself. So let me pop it out for you. You can see it really is just a rectangle, but it's got these great columns of slip stitches and pearls. And when you fold this corner in, so there's the end of the cast on, and it naturally folds along where you've created your stitches. So it's this rounded shape and the bag tucks in nicely. And I just love it. It's so ingenious. Loving it so far. I mean, I only went to the yarn store yesterday midday. I cast this on in the afternoon yesterday, and it is all I have wanted to touch. At this point, it's virtually mindless in the round. The pattern doesn't say to use markers. I elected to use all these stitch markers because I was certain I was going to miss the purl stitches and the slip stitches as I am just knitting in the round at this point. You do have to do it as magic loop for the first couple of inches because of the magic cast on, and you need to build up a little fabric in order to be able to do it in the round. But I'm well past that. I'm comfortably in the round now, and it's a joy to work on. This fabric is downright delightful and I love it so much. Very much looking forward to having this as a finished bag. I think I made the right choice. Not gonna lie. All right, that was a lot of talking for me. That's everything I have for you, which is plenty. It's more than I normally have, isn't it? Yeah, it is fun. I love my thrifting. I love finding secondhand stuff, and there's definitely a rush and joy to that. And if you haven't seen my last thrift haul video, check that out because there is a nice chunk of secondhand yarn at the end there. But it's been a long time since I got to go to a yarn store and look at a whole bunch of yarns and just pick some out. So that it's a different kind of enjoyment, and I'm very happy about it right now. And again, it's my local yarn store. It's somewhere I want to support and that I'm comfortable supporting, and yeah, it was fun. And I feel like I got some good deals. I'm surprised there was this many sweater quantities left on the clearance tables. So I am planning on going to Rhinebeck again this year. Until this week, I wasn't entirely sure I would be able to because our financial situation has been a little up and down this year. As most of you know, it was a difficult and unusual year for us. So we've stabilized more recently, and I was able to book an Airbnb quite late, so I overpaid a little, I think. But I'm already planning out some videos that I'm going to make. I say some. I'm planning out a lot. I'm planning on more videos than I've ever done before, but I think it'll be worth it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I'm thinking now, I just bought a bunch of stuff in the beginning of August, plenty to get me through then. I'm probably not going to be buying non-thrifted yarn again until Rhinebeck, which is fine. It's fine with me. I've got more than enough to work through then. I've probably got enough to work through the rest of my life, truly, but not on the stuff that I'm finding inspiring at the moment. So that said, something to look forward to, even though it's a few months away. I am already starting to feel the change of seasons schedule weighing on me, even though obviously it's August. We've still got plenty of summer left. Functionally, in where I live in upstate New York, summer lasts well into September. It stays quite hot, but I allow myself to start shifting into fall in September. I do make myself hold off on it. I love seasonal traditions, and I think I force myself to wait until the appropriate season because I would love to experience fall earlier, but it's not really here yet, and I will start to get confused if I let myself do it too early in the season, and then it kind of takes away from the joy of doing it when the season's actually there, you know? So I am looking forward to fall, but I'm trying to savor the last of summer first, as I force myself to do every year. And if you've been around for a little while, you know that we have a standing vacation that we do every year. We go to Florida in September for a Halloween event at Universal Studios. So I'm already trying to think about what projects I'm going to want to take on that trip, because that's only a month away, and what things I want to finish up before that. Because for me, having that tradition, that trip ends up sort of being the turning point for seasons for me. I mean, first of all, it feels like both fall and summer at the same time to go to Florida for a Halloween event in the beginning of September. It's like the kickoff to fall, because we're like diving headfirst into Halloween and like scary stuff and spooky things. But also it's like blazing hot. And while it stays summer here for a long time, you know, we go to Florida and it's like 95 degrees. So I have to dress for summer, but like act like fall while we're down there. And then when we come back, I'm fully in the fall mindset after having done all the Halloween stuff. And we come back and it's significantly cooler than it was when we were there, right? So to me, summer ends when I go on that trip, which is only like 4 weeks away at this point. So I'm feeling the schedule. I'm starting to think about planning out what I can actually accomplish before the end of this season. And I'm, of course, planning on making holiday gifts again this year. And once I get into fall, I really don't end up spending that much time knitting things for myself. I tend to shift into holiday knitting and gift knitting. I'm planning on doing less of that this year. I have overdone it in the past, and not that the people that I'm knitting for don't appreciate it, but I have other plans this year. I guess I'm hoping to take back some of the cozy fall and winter knitting for myself, because that's what my hobby is about, right? And I guess that's so I'm kind of low-key, not super official, but like in the back of my mind, kind of planning out what I'm going to do over the next couple months and thinking a lot about it. So just so you're aware, like I could click into fall at any moment, but I won't. I'm going to try to hold out until September. So anyway, thanks for joining me today. I think now, if you've been here before, you know that we call this segment the end of the video club. If you stuck around through all of my rambling, not just the acquisitions, which I know a lot of people drop off for, but the blathering I just did about seasons and my knitting planning, like, thank you. You're a real one. And we call this the end of the video club because we like to share here. So presumably at this point, there's already been some of our end of the video club entries passing by. I could not use them all in this one. Please don't be offended if you sent one in and I didn't get to use it. I got so many this time, which I'm sure is because at the end of my last podcast, I kind of went off the rails and like insisted that if you care about me, you'll send one, which I was in a mood that day, which was very apparent watching that footage back to edit it for the video. But thank you so much. If you sent it in, even if it doesn't appear here, I truly appreciate it. I had a great time looking through all the projects and getting that feedback. So please feel free to keep sending them in. If you want to send a photo of what you're working on while you watch this video, or just what you're working on in general, please do. You can send it to my Instagram messages or to the email that's in the description box below. It is so fun to be able to have our little community and get to see what everybody's working on when you guys get to see what I'm working on. So as always, I appreciate that you're here, that you're into the end of the video club, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye.